Hey guys, this is Killrob speaking, and in today's Little Dev Update I once again have 3 topics for you, and that would be rear engine cars are kind of done and ready to be shown to you, and we are going to build a few examples, 2 of these, just showing you what's going on. And then of course we all have another region update now with all implemented affordability calculations. That will be interesting to take a look at. And also I want to show you as a third and final topic the detailed stats page update, which still isn't quite finished but ready to be shown to you as well. Alright, let's get right into it. Topic number 1. Rear engine cars are now complete, and you will be able to try them out for yourself in the next big update. We want to mount a rear engine in this vehicle, and you can already see this engine will push the vehicle a lot, and probably this craft will handle like shit. And yeah, let's see what we can do with this, what we can fit into it. 6.5 liters. We are now putting behind the rear axle something that weighs 628 kilos in a aluminum body. I don't think this thing will handle particularly well. And now we have the perfect driving stats. You see here 5.7 drivability and 1.0 sportiness. And how can that be, you might ask? Let's take a look at the suspension graph. Whoa, holy moly oversteer. Yes. Let's take a look at weight balance. Oh yeah, 74% rear for such a car in 1950. Not healthy. Not healthy. Anyway, let's build something which is a bit more awesome and a bit more feasible. And here we are with a 1985 car that is a bit more realistic than the 6.5 liter V8 we put in the 1950s car. Because here we just have a nice little V6 sitting in it that has 2 liters and produces just 101 kilowatts for a car that is a reasonable sports car, 845 kilograms heavy or light, but this is kind of the primary application for the rear engine cars, making either very simple early cars which are very lightweight because you didn't have front wheel drive in the early days. You would put a 500 cubic inch inline 4 in the rear of a car and then be all smiley when you see that you didn't have to pay all the weight in drivetrain mass for the stuff which runs below the car, because it's just driving the rear axle. In this case, a bit more sporty, it's really easy to make the car oversteer, contrary to what you expect from the early days where you put the engine in the front, where all cars horribly understeer. Topic number 2. We have completely implemented the regions now, and those regions, again, like I said in the last Little Dev Update, are completely fictional. And now you also see their names up here: Gesmir, Achana and Fruinia. And these are fictional because they wouldn't be able to exist in that static form over all the years in the current world we live in. So take that as is. Also, we're going to change Achana to Archana because Achana, someone told me, means the vagina in Portuguese. Not such a good choice. Alright, so what have we implemented here? You have last time seen all the calculations which went into competitiveness, but now we have added all the affordability linked calculations as well, and those are pretty complex because the budgets change and the tax regulations change and all kinds of things. So what you are seeing here, for instance, in Gesmir, this car at this sales price is scoring really well in all kinds of categories, and you see it has let's just take the light sports budget car demographic into consideration here, and they have 42.4% affordability in this. If we now change over to Arjana, then we drop down to 23%. Yes, so they have a lot less budget in the same demographic compared to other regions. So yes. Also, they have different regulations for safety and for like here, like you can see here. Yes, this car doesn't score well in Frenia at all because it just is not safe enough and it's not allowed to be sold in this region. So if we go here, then you see now we have the Frenia region locked in for these two demographics. They're still red, and if we now go and change to standard, they are popping into green because the car really is desirable if it's allowed to be sold there. So that's already working and pretty handy. Also, there is all kinds of calculations for the different fuel availabilities, the taxes in the regions, and the budgets of each region depend on both the buying power and the income disparity in the regions. So that all drives the affordability of the cars. And it's all coming together nicely. Also, you see here in the tooltip another little aspect of it. And that would be that if the body of choice, like the body shape of choice, is too old, then the car becomes less desirable. And the same goes for the trim. But for the body, it is more it's hard to describe. It does fall off less in the early years, but then pretty rapidly towards the end. It's a quadratic function, and the trim is much more linear in that sense, that it's the older the car is, the older the trim is, the more desirability it loses, because no one really wants to buy old shit, right? And don't forget that we are putting in kind of packages into the car. Like here, you have the basic AM radio or the standard 8-track, but of course, depending on what year you're in, what is standard changes. So definitely you would not be putting in the same stuff 10 years later into the same car and call it state of the art. That would not happen. So overall, I'm pretty pleased that this is all working already, and we are kind of ready to go. We are now, wait a second. We are now going to build company lineups for you to be competing against. The testers are going to build their own companies, and under some strict rules, so that they don't become too amazing and you just can't compete. That would be a bad move. But also, we have given you a few more tools up here to check how your cars are going to do in future years. So for example, if we take this car in Frenia and we just change to standard safety, and you can now see how it would change in 10 years time. How does the car do then? Oh, damn it! It doesn't do well at all. Why is that? Well, same thing again. Safety is too low for this region, as the tooltip says. So when does it change? In 1990. That is the limit. Then for every 10 years the safety limitations go up, and for the very first years there are basically no safety requirements at all. But let's see if this car still would sell in Gazmir. Yeah, Gazmir has fewer safety regulations, or less strict safety regulations than Frenia, and Ahana basically has no worries about safety whatsoever. In 2010 they kind of start to get going with this, and a 1975 car in 2010 definitely should be considered a little too unsafe for the general market if they have any standards whatsoever. Another aspect which is important when you change the years up here is that you can see how your car will behave differently depending on its age and the demographic you are in. For example, let's say, family utility budget buyer should probably not really care about styling as much as someone who buys hypercars. And you can see the difference here. The same age for the car and the body gives you a desirability reduction of 2% for the old body style, and for the trim, people still do care about like old shit being built into cars, so 6% desirability loss because of the old trim. And this trim is actually from 1975 now in 1990 in this example, so you lose on basically 8% of desirability for this one. But for hypercars, where people really care about getting the latest and bestest shit, you lose 16% each. Alright, that is that, and now let's go into topic number 3. The final topic is all about the new detailed stats screen, which we see right here. And to many of you, the secondary stats like practicality, utility, and off-road were kind of mysteries on how they were constructed. So we added them to the detailed stats page, where you can take a look what factors go into there. Anyway, utility has plenty of more factors, also cornering, which is not the real thing. This is just a base value which we use for balancing right now. This is kind of the practicality base, it should say, instead of cornering. And utility, like I said, many more factors in there. Then we have the off-road stats, and there is also quite a few factors in here. And just 2 info pages, and that would be economy, which now gives you the details of how the economy is actually calculated. And then, very important, more important than this economy tab, is the running costs tab. An interesting one too, because it contains not only the service costs for the car, which was a figure which was not really accurate before, and still is shown as the non-accurate figure down here. And many of you wondered, like, why do we even have this? This doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Well, now it comes into play for the different affordabilities in the regions we just talked about in the last topic. And you have different factors for each demographic specifically as well. And there would be service costs, $270 per year, which sounds much more to the point. The insurance costs in this region, and the tax base you pay for having the car licensed, and then you have tax multiplier. And that one is coming from the emissions bracket you are in and the displacement bracket you are in, if there are regulations for what you're allowed to have. But also it comes, the total running cost comes from how much fuel you use, what kind of fuel you use, how available this fuel is, and of course what the fuel costs as well. So if we go to Gasmia here, you see, oh look, these emission limits the brackets are not balanced yet, so these are stupid values. But you can see here, okay, we do have emission taxes, and right now the car's emission is 5,000 something, and the highest bracket is 700 plus, so we are in the highest bracket and have to pay twice the taxes, which makes the tax multiplier go to 200, and thus we end up with pretty high running costs. This basically multiplies the basic tax, as you can see there, and in Farina it is even more regulation. As you can see, the field below here popped into existence as well, and what you see there is the displacement tax, and we have a very small V6 in this one, pretty nice engine, and we are in the lowest displacement bracket where we only pay 90% of the taxes, but unfortunately this engine still is producing lots of emissions, so we are in the 2 times bracket over here, so we get a total multiplier for the taxes of 180%, which then figures into the running costs and make the car less affordable. If the demographic actually cares about running costs, like a hypercar buyer will probably not feel $1,750 per year that much as a pretty poor chap who's looking for a family budget car or something. Anyway, so this is that. There's a lot of pretty important information in here as well. The fuel availability is a big factor. It makes your driving distance longer, and because you first have to find a gas station which actually sells your fuel. If it's at 60%, it's basically every second gas station, so it's not a big problem. But if it's on the level of like 20% or 10%, not only does it add distance, but it also makes the car less desirable in this region, and that can be a big factor. And the total distance driven is basically tied to what type of car it is and the demographic preferences, and also the region of choice. For instance, in Frenia, where the distances are short, people don't really have to drive as much. Distance between cities are short, the cities are pretty small, and in Gazmir, which is more wide and open, the same demographic basically drives twice as much, because distances between cities are just much larger. Also, this fuel type is much more available. So this gives a nice overview of the new detailed stats, I think, and let's wrap this up for today. Hope you enjoyed, and see you guys next time.